Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. And it's wonderful to have you along for the ride. My name is Mark Farzetta. So much to get into today. Just in the Phillies game alone. That was a bonkers win by the Phillies yesterday. 5-2 going into the eighth inning. Or 5-2 going into the ninth inning. Orion Kerkering and the Phillies defense are like, hey, you think this was going to be easy? Let's make it more interesting. They cough up the lead. It's a 6-5 game by the end. Phillies are able to rally. In all honesty, by the skin of their teeth, lucky as lucky could be in the bottom of that ninth inning. Did they create their own luck in some of those situations? Oh, they certainly did. But that didn't mean that it came easy by any means. So we'll get into that game last night. And then this George Kittle deal. With the San Francisco 49ers, biggest contract, tight end history, all that, how it affects Dallas Goedert. There is a thought that we had yesterday on Eagles Squad podcast on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Harry Mays, Louis DiBiase, myself, we were kicking this idea around. Is it possible that the Philadelphia Eagles are not done with Dallas Goedert? Now, I in no way, shape, or form expect the Eagles to give Dallas Goedert a contract that's going to be about $19.1 million per year, which is what George Kittle just got, a $5 million raise, Dallas Goedert. I don't think that's happening. But it goes along the same lines as the conversation that we were having yesterday when it came to what I heard on Inside the Birds podcast with Jeff Bosher, Adam Kaplan, talking about the Zach Ertz situation, about Zach Ertz having an issue with his contract, Eagles not wanting to extend Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz ended up coming out and playing a couple games before he was traded to the Arizona Cardinals. Could that same type of fate be lying in wait for Dallas Goedert? Right now, they don't have the money. And I know that I always say don't look at the cap because just any GM could do it. Howie just seems to be the best at it when it comes to reworking deals, restructuring here and there. When it comes to the deals that need to be done for the Philadelphia Eagles in the near future, Dallas Goedert is not high on my list here. The fact that the Eagles didn't take a tight end does give me concern about the way this whole tight end situation ends going into training camp. They had a veteran, undrafted rookie, whatever it might be. I don't feel great about the prospect of going into this season with Grant Calcaterra as your number one guy. And I'm a Grant Calcaterra fan. But when it comes to Dallas Goedert in the blocking game as well as the passing game, there's nobody on the Eagles roster right now that can hold a candle to what he can do. And I have always looked at Dallas Goedert as a guy that, without question, is one of the best tight ends in football. Just can't stay healthy. He's a classic case of the old cliche, the best ability is availability. When he's out there, he's phenomenal. He has one of my favorite plays of the year when he slowed down to give Valentine that little stiff arm. I slowed down just to give him a little something extra. Come get some. Like the stiff arm into the end zone. Amazing. The run after the catch. Fantastic. I love what he brings to the table here. I don't want to see him leave. But when you talk about the economics of it, it just doesn't really make sense for the Eagles to go with some kind of long-term extension. Doesn't make sense even for a franchise tag. They might, on average, save $1 million, actually. But even at $13 million, that's a pretty steep for the tight end, considering their cap availability right now. I still think he's in his final days, but here's where I've turned around a little bit. Here's where I've flip-flopped on the Dallas Goedert situation after the draft. I wouldn't be shocked if he has a handful of games left as a Philadelphia Eagle. Let's not forget that it's not just the Eagles that have been trying to move on from him or trade him. It's also Dallas Goedert. I mean, really, it's Dallas Goedert because he wants that new deal. And good for him. He should want a new deal. No one wants to go into the final year of your contract, although it's still the sixth highest paid tight end in all of football. George Kittle's resetting the market. He's the new number one guy. And you want something that's a little bit more competitive than within $5 million per year average annual salary of the number one contract for your position. So I don't fault him for it. It's just that as of right now, when it comes to the finances of the situation, it wouldn't really behoove the Eagles to make that decision, especially when you did survive and still play at a very high level, even without Dallas Goedert in your lineup this past season. As I always like to go back to, the Eagles are still pretty stacked, offensively speaking. It still is amazing they didn't even draft a tight end. Like, at some point, don't you just say, all right, well, let's move on for the best available, and let's just get somebody that we think is pretty damn good and also had a need. Might make sense in the tight end spot. So we'll get into more into that, but my head is still spinning from yesterday's Phillies game. If you watched that game yesterday, oh my goodness gracious, it was absolutely insane. First off, you have a 3-0 lead in the third inning, and you're playing the Nationals. You got Zach Wheeler on the hill. You're feeling pretty good. You're feeling like, oh, lock up a win. This will be great. 3 in a row, 3 wins in a row with this Philly squad. All right. Let's be on our way to maybe winning 2 series in a row as well. Let's do that. Then you go into the 7th inning. You're up 3-1 at this point. Zach Wheeler gets charged for another run, courtesy of Matt Strahm coming in. He gives up an RBI double, I believe it was. And then it's a 1-run ball game. And you're thinking, all right, you know what? Let's, RBI double there. Strahm came in for Zach Wheeler in the 7th, gave up the RBI double to CJ Abrams. And there you go. Sinker out over the middle of the plate, 1-2 count, and Abrams took care of it for extra bases. But you get out of that with just allowing 1 run. So you go into the 8th inning. 3-2 ball game. Phillies have a bases loaded, nobody out situation that Jose Alvarado has to wiggle out of. Now, Alvarado gave up a single to lead things off. Then he gave up another single to Ruiz. Rosario was able to go to first to third. So you have first and third with nobody out. Nathaniel Lowe hits a bouncer to short. Trey Turner fields this baseball. He has a force play at second base. He could turn 2. He could allow the game-tying run to score, and he could get a double play here, which would empty the bases. Run scores, he gets a double play. That's it. Instead, I think he makes a really smart decision. His decision is, I'm going to step on second base, get the force out there, fire home, prevent the run from scoring, because Rosario's going from third to home. I can get him out. Good decision. Horrible execution. He goes to second base to step on it, and then I think he gets a little gun shy, thinking he's going to allow the run to score, and he misses second base. I mean, quite frankly, I don't even think he misses it. I think he just makes the decision, I don't have time to literally take the half step to step on second base and then fire home. He had time. The clock was going a little too fast for the moment in Trey Turner's head. So he doesn't step on second base. So now no outs recorded there. He fires home. Rosario still would have been out by a mile. He retreats back to third base. They would at least got him in a rundown. So now, thanks to the sheer stupidity of that play, bases loaded, nobody out for Jose Alvarado. Jose Alvarado, in this situation, then goes on to strike out Bell. 2-2, cutter, in. Gets him on that one, swinging, chasing it. Then Cruz steps up to the plate. He gets him chasing a cutter down and in. Similar spot there to Bell. Then he gets called to strike out on a 2-2 cutter. Also in on the hands. Masterful performance by Jose Alvarado to get out of that jam. And yeah, his defense didn't help him none in that inning. So then the Phillies go into the 8th inning. They tack a couple more runs on, including, was that a bunt? It was the bunt single by Bryce Harper. They also get a RBI double from Trey Turner. He had 4 hits last night and could almost not have been worse in the field. But 4 hits last night for him. 3 hits in the last game against the Cubs. 4 hits last night for him. His RBI double made it a 4-2 game. And then on a wild pitch, Trey Turner was able to come around to score. A wild pitch. That's a fun theme of the Nationals last night. To make it a 5-2 game, you think, all right, 3-run lead. They got this. Orion Kerkering gets the ball in the top of the 9th inning, looking to close out the Phillies' 3rd straight win. Orion Kerkering, in case you haven't been paying attention, Orion Kerkering has not been very good at baseball this season. Not so much. Orion Kerkering can barely get 3 outs, okay? The Phillies made him get 5 outs in that inning. He starts off, he gets Young chasing the sinker. Then Abram gets a single on a 1-2 sinker that he left up. Wood comes up there, gets the RBI double on the Johan Rojas. Second misplay of the game for Johan Rojas. He had one in the third inning, that led to 12 more pitches for Zach Wheeler. So, excuse me, if Johan Rojas makes a play on a fly ball hit over his head in center field that he absolutely mistimed, then you're talking about maybe Zach Wheeler being able to go at least one more inning in the game last night. So you maybe never see Orion Kirkering, and Jose Alvarado ends up pitching in the 9th inning to close it out. Maybe. But Johan Rojas in this 9th inning makes another misplay where he comes in far too aggressively on a line drive, ends up going over his head. Run scores on this. It's an RBI double. It gets put in the books as an RBI double for Wood on that play. So now it's a 5-3 game. Rosario then hits another grounder, this one to Trey Turner. He fields it. He fires across the field, a high and wide of Bryce Harper. So that allows another runner on base, another misplay by Trey Turner in the game. Next man up. Next man up is Nathaniel Lowe. Orion Kirkering, you see him shake off JT Realmuto. Ballsy. Shakes off. I don't know if JT was calling for a fastball away or whatever the deal was, but Orion Kirkering shakes him off, and they go with a sweeper. Sweeper down in to left-handed hitting Nathaniel Lowe. He belts that baby out of the ballpark for a 3-run home run. And all of a sudden, just like that, bing, bang, boom, Phillies went from up 5-2 to down 6-5. And now have to go into the bottom of the 9th inning, which they do. Just to pause it right there for a second. Zach Wheeler gave up a home run earlier in the game. He's given up a home run in, I think, every one of his starts now, which is odd for him. But Zach Wheeler said after the game, the one thing he regretted about his start was he shook off JT Realmuto, and on that very pitch that he shook off JT Realmuto, saying, "Oh, no. I have an idea here. I know what to do." That's when Garcia took him yard for a solo home run in the 6th inning. Cool. So Zach Wheeler, I'm going to go ahead and say that he knows a little bit more than Orion Kirkering about pitching. Like in particular, maybe don't shake off JT Realmuto. But Orion Kirkering shakes off JT Realmuto and he gives up a 3-run home run. Not wise. So now let's go to the bottom of the 9th inning. This is just pandemonium. First off, Alec Boehm leads off with a single to right field. There was a shot of Kyle Schwarber in the dugout after this single. He was 0 for 3 going into that at bat. He gets the single to right field, gets things started. 1-run ball game. There's a shot of Kyle Schwarber in the dugout, and he hits the screen in front of the dugout, and then you kind of read his lips in it a little bit. It kind of looked like he said, like, that's all we needed, something like that. And he was right. And I got to be honest with you, even though I was down in the dumps after the way the Phillies had played in the top of the 9th inning, I thought, yeah, that's all I needed against the Nationals bullpen. That's all I needed. Get something going. Then you see Bryson Stott come up to pinch hit for Edmundo Sosa. Interesting, after the game, Stott said that he was in the cages waiting for an opportunity to go up there. He gets an opportunity against Kyle Finnegan, and he works a walk. He's able to get up at the count. I think it was 2-1 count. Gets up in the count, works the walk. That puts Alec Boehm in scoring position. And then Max Kepler gets a sac fly. Boehm's able to get to third base on that. And then Johan Rojas steps up. This is where the Phillies get extremely lucky. If I'm Dusty Wathan, I'm not sending Alec Boehm here. Johan Rojas sends the ball, another sac fly to right field. Cruz is under there, lining it up perfectly, gets his steps under him, fires home, and his throw We always say this about a pitcher. Oh, he pitched good enough to win. Well, Cruz's throw was good enough to win that battle and throw out Alec Bohm. It was there. Bohm was out by a mile. I joke all the time about Nick Castellanos being the slowest man on the planet. Pat Burrell type slow. Okay. Alec Bohm maybe just barely beats out Nick Castellanos in a foot race. Okay. So Dusty Watson says, I'm going to make him, I'm going to send Alec Bohm. He sends Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm is dead to rights. Ruiz for the Nationals, their catcher, short arms it. Can't catch it. Good throw. Great throw by Cruz. Catcher can't corral it. Alec Bohm slides, misses home plate, goes back, touches home plate. Phillies tie the game at 6-6. Now, on all of this, you have Bryson Stott at third base. Finnegan, everyday Finnegan, spikes the ball, blocked by Ruiz. Ruiz had to make a diving play to try to block this wild pitch. And Bryson Stott reads it perfectly. He said after the game, Dusty Watson told him, hey, make sure you get a big secondary lead here. And he did. And he took full advantage of it. And Bryson Stott gets one plate appearance in this game and scores the game-winning run to walk it off on a wild pitch on a wild night at Citizens Bank Park. Look, I don't think the Nationals are terrible by any means, but I also think they're not the Phillies. I don't think they're on the Phillies' same level at all. So my big takeaway from this game is you could play with the mistakes that you made, Johan Rojas in center field making 2 of them. You could play with the mistakes that you made. Trey Turner, hey, look, he was 4 for 4, 2 runs scored, an RBI. That's great. That's all. Helped the Phillies tack on runs in the bottom of the 8th inning when they needed them. He was great at the dish. He was terrible with the glove. And almost cost the Phillies the win in that regard. But you could play like this against a team that is below you like the Nationals, and you can win. If you're supposed to be a playoff-bound team, like I still believe the Phillies are, you can't play like this against the Mets. You can't even play like this against the Braves and expect to win. But watching last night's game, as frustrating as it was, I know that you had a lefty going last night in Mackenzie Gore, so you really weren't expecting Bryson Stott to be in the lineup. Trey Turner was in the leadoff spot last night. Emilio Sosa was at second base. Bryson Stott reminds me so much of Chase Utley. Now, look, the power isn't there, okay? Let's get that out of the way. But specifically, I hate when people just throw out a blanket comparison without really explaining it. I'm going to really explain it. He reminds me so much of Chase Utley in this one regard, and it's got nothing to do with the both second baseman. The approach to the plate with Bryson Stott is always there. That's what frustrated me so much last year when apparently Kevin Long was telling him, hey, yo, go there, be more aggressive. How about no? How about that's not what makes his bread. That's not his bread and butter. Now, it came out with the shoulder injury, came out after last year. Talked about it in spring training this year. That's what really hampered him as well. But changing the guy's overall mindset when he is such a patient hitter and he does not tremble when he goes down the count 0-2, or if he's got a full count, he's not thinking, I need to come up with the hit here. I need to swing hard here. And he doesn't think like that. He has a different mentality. Like every pitch is its own at bat to him. And that's how you got to be, especially if you're going to be a top of the order guy. And that's what Bryson Stott has been throughout his career. So last night he gets in there, one plate appearance, works the walk, game-winning run. And it was last night's approach. It's been his approach at the leadoff spot. And I truly believe that Bryson Stott has been your best leadoff hitter since he has come up. He has been your best leadoff hitter. Look, in terms of what the leadoff role is supposed to be, that's Bryson Stott. A guy that sees pitches, takes pitches, fouls pitches away, lets the rest of the team see what the pitchers got that day, can work a count, can get on base, obviously. He does that in the most stereotypical way, in a good way, possible. And now he's finally in that spot. And I think the Phillies are a much better team with him at the top of the order. At least when it comes to the long-term sustained success of what this lineup can produce with him up there, I think that this is the best possible way you can organize this lineup, and it starts with Bryson Stott leading things off. Look, if the Phillies continue to go down a rough path of playing near 500 baseball, then there might come a point where, like the Phillies did 2 years ago, when they said, to hell with it. No, I know it doesn't make sense, but we win Kyle Schwarber, you're back of the order. You're back at top of the order. I can totally see that happening. But just when it comes to what you're used to seeing and what you typically want out of your leadoff hitter, Bryson Stott absolutely provides that for this Phillies ball club. I don't know what's left with Orion Kerkering. I don't know what we could do with it. Look, was last night all his fault? Last night was absolutely not his fault. It's not good if you're shaking off JT Realmuto, but he shook off JT Realmuto and he paid for it. But he has struggled big time throughout this year. And this was a guy that you're really looking forward to coming into this season as one of your go-to bullpen pieces. And he has been far from that this year. Far from that this year. So, look, Phillies are back at it 6:45 tonight. I don't know if they trot Orion Kerkering back out there. And I'm hoping the Phillies get a laugher of a performance today. That'll be a rough one, but it's anything to build his confidence. I don't see the Phillies sending him down. Who they bringing up? If Ranger Suarez is ready to go, it might be a different story. We could put somebody else in the bullpen. But as of right now, Phillies seem to be kind of stuck in this spot. Absolutely a wild one last night. Real quick while I have you. Last night, here's what the Phillies got into. Again, 4-for-4 night for Trey Turner. Bryce Harper came up with the bunt single. The fact that 366 on base percentage, it's great. But again, you're talking about a guy that is in the middle of your lineup. Your 3-hitter for the most part. No, batting second last night. Yeah. Like, that batting average can't be 231. All right. It can't be 231. Kyle Schwarber came up with that home run, his 8th home run of the season. Johan Rojas, first home run of the season. Let's not forget about him. Nick Castellanos, the 0 for JT, the 0 for Alec Bohm came up with that hit in the bottom of the 9th inning. And Mundo Sosa, I didn't even know this was allowed. Took an 0 for 3 last night. Come on, bro. Batting average plunges down to 400. Come on. Weston Wilson failed to record a hit last night. Weston Wilson got a couple of fastballs, got a couple of cookies over the middle of the plate last night and just missed them. Ended up flying out. Max Kepler, he came in for Weston Wilson to take over in left field. He put a couple of good charges into baseballs last night, one resulting in at least runners advancing in the ninth there. And Johan Rojas actually gets 2 hits recorded for himself last night and 2 RBIs. One was the home run. How about that? As far as your pitching staff, this is what it looked like for Zach. Really, everything was working for Zach Wheeler, but his cutter in particular last night to get through 6 2/3, 2 runs, 5 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, 106 pitches. Gets the ERA to 3.48. When it came to Zach Wheeler last night, I'll take a sip of the espresso. There we go. When it came to Zach Wheeler last night, the cutter, like I said, was working in particular great, but you fail to get him his 3rd win of the season. Jose Alvarado pitched his ace off in that 8th inning to try to preserve that lead. Nothing doing. Matt Strahm, a 1/3 of an inning, gave up that single. The run, though, was charged to Zach Wheeler. Alvarado, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts, 23. How about that? Through the bases loaded, no out situation, you still only need 23 pitches. How about that? If you tell me you got a bases loaded, no out situation, I'm going to assume that's like a 30-pitch inning at least. Orion Kerkering, 4 runs. My man, pots and pans. Holy Stromboli. 5.56 ERA for Orion Kerkering. As I mentioned, Phillies, Nationals back at it 6:45 tonight in South Philadelphia. Looks like Taijuan Walker will get that start tonight. Wait, no, that's tomorrow night. And Miss Scusi. I thought Christopher Sanchez was going to miss his start tonight. Okay. All right. I'll get that for you during our morning rush. To the Eagles. With the Eagles not taking a tight end in the draft, 2 really interesting things came away from yesterday's Locked On Eagles Squad podcast, again with myself, Harry Mays, Louis DiBiase. Jason Martinez is also going to be joining us. Jason's dealing with some stuff right now, and if you know, you know. But a couple of things came away that was interesting. Number one, the Eagles not taking a tight end in the draft. Does that mean that Dallas Goedert's coming back to play a couple of games before he gets traded, before he gets dealt? Is that what this means? Could it possibly mean that the Eagles would pay him? I don't think that's possible, simply because if the Eagles are going to pay you, they The funny thing is they pay you. It's a good thing about the Eagles. It's like, oh, we're going to pay. So here's the money. It's good. The other thing though is if they ever tell you to seek a trade on your own, that means you ain't getting paid. At least not by the Eagles. Yeah, no. Yeah, you go seek a trade. See if you can get better than $14 million. See if you can do better than that. I would think that'd be rather difficult, but nothing's come of it. So as of right now, things are going in the Eagles' favor. Are they a better football team with Dallas Goedert? Absolutely. But they're still pretty dominant offensively. The Eagles, in a way, they can afford to be a little cocky right now. They're feeling pretty good. Super Bowl blowout, yeah, they feel like they're doing all right. They feel like through the draft, they might have gotten 2 starters. When you talk about Jahad Campbell coming in here and maybe getting 70% of the snaps defensively, 65% of the snaps defensively, filling in for more of that Hassan Reddick role than anything. Him and Nolan Smith really taking the edge rusher position maybe by storm this year. Hopefully, cross fingers for that. They feel like in Makuba, they got a starting safety as of right now. A steal with the last pick of the second round. Maybe Ty Robinson is the guy that comes in on the defensive line, and he plays the same amount of snaps that you saw from Milton Williams last year. They really feel like they've done well. And there's a lot of draft classes out. Hey, I even saw our own sponsor, the Game Time app, give the Eagles a B+ in their draft grade. How about that? The Eagles can afford to be a little cocky, but I feel a lot better if Dallas Goedert's on this offense. I just don't see that being the long-term solution to the Dallas Goedert problem. He might not have played his final game, but I'll still say he's in his final, 6-7 months as an Eagle before the Eagles move him before the deadline. I wouldn't be shocked now if he does come back. I don't know. There's no better solution right now than him coming back and playing. He could make this tough on the Eagles. He could force the hand a little bit here, holding out. If you remember, you tracked the Zach Ertz situation. He was not in attendance for everything, but did play before he was dealt. So this came up in conversation yesterday. And with them not taking a tight end, with the Eagles still in the midst of this Dallas Goedert situation, now Dallas Goedert might want a couple of more dollars thanks to this George Kittle deal. Is it possible? Now, this question was asked a year ago when Johnny Wilson came here as a ginormous target. Are you going to use him as a tight end? He can block as a wide receiver. Can he block as a tight end? He is that big target. He would be great in the red zone, a great option in the red zone in the event that anything happens with the tush-to-push, which, by the way, I don't care what politics you have. If you're an Eagles fan and you hear the President of the United States say, we got to keep that tush-push. It's got a presidential pardon, NFL. It's staying around, okay? It's gone all the way to the White House. Anyway, is it possible that the Eagles are considering Johnny Wilson as a tight end and making that switch? I still think it's very unlikely that they do that, but with things falling as they have after the draft, I think we're entertaining every option here. And I'd be interested to see if the Eagles go in that direction. The other thing that I find really interesting, and shout out to my man Louis DiBiase, who runs Eagles Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. He is really high on Drew Kendall, the center/guard that the Eagles took in the draft. Very high on Drew Kendall, who is a son of a 13-year vet, Pete Kendall, out of Boston College. Both of them out of Boston College. And he says, when you talk about the competitions on this Eagles offense, again, going into this season, one of the biggest competitions is right guard. Last year, that was supposed to be a big competition. It was supposed to be Tyler Steen. The Eagles got Mekhi Becton, who had only played tackle. They move him to the inside, and he plays at an incredible level and just signed himself a nice big fat contract in the offseason. No longer here, obviously, but now you're leaving behind another competition at the right guard spot. And Louis DiBiase threw this out here. Now, I can't break down Drew Kendall. I haven't watched that much of him. You're talking about a 5th-round pick out of BC. But when you talk about instincts, one thing I like about players, players that whose fathers played in the league is the instincts seem to be, for the most part, inherited. And I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. certainly has, as the hatchet man, the inherited instincts of the axe man when it comes to his approach. We'll see if that rings true with Drew Kendall, but Louis threw this out there. He said he wouldn't be surprised if Drew Kendall ends up being a starter on this offensive line. Tyler Steen had an opportunity to take it. He didn't take it. Tyler Steen played well in his limited opportunities to play last year. I think they were even 4-0 in games where he played 75 or more percent of the snaps, I think. So they did well with Tyler Steen playing. But will the Eagles reset the clock with another young player if he's able to come in there and show any type of promise? And I'll just say this again for the people that didn't hear me say this before. You're an offensive lineman. You come in, you meet Jeff Satlin. You go into the NovaCare complex of flesh and blood. You shake Jeff Satlin's hand, and you leave in bronze and with a gold jacket. That's how it works. So it's going to be another competition at the right guard spot. I know it's easy for a lot of us to say, oh, well, now it's Tyler Steen's. Now it's Tyler Steen's job. Well, they brought in some competition there. Well, Kenyon Green, they brought in that spot. Obviously already having Tyler Steen and now drafting a guy that can play the spot as well in Drew Kendall. I think I've been pronouncing, by the way, I think Louis, because I never say his name right. I always put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. But Smael Mondon, I think I was putting more of the accent on Mondoon, but it's Mondon. Linebacker out of Georgia that the Eagles took. How about the Eagles took 2 linebackers and not one tight end in this draft? Is still insane to me. But between Kendall, then Robinson, Makuba, and Campbell, you could be talking about in this draft of 10 players, 4 of them getting starter snaps across the board. That'd be one hell of a real draft haul. Not just quantity in taking 10 players, but also quality. You get 4 starters out of one draft. That's a pretty good draft. Oh, and they still have to play at a really high level. Because as I told you guys, and the other thing that also came into all this, especially when you talk about taking 4 defensive players, 5 defensive players before you took Kendall in the 5th round, 5th round. All these defensive players, I have zero doubt in my mind, come with the blessing of Vic Fangio. I have zero. If you're drafting for Vic Fangio's defense, I have no doubt that Vic Fangio is looking at this film being like, yep, nope, yes, no, definitely not, absolutely no. No doubt in my mind that he's going through the film like that. So these are all guys that you're looking at going, all right, well, if Howie and the scouting team likes him and if Vic Fangio is signing off on this, then that's another, in Howie we trust, in Vic we trust. I mean, look what he was able to do with Zach Baun. Who's the next Zach Baun of any of these players that the Eagles brought in? Not necessarily of guys that have played in the NFL for a while, but and then finally get discovered as that diamond in the rough. But also, who are the guys that you're buying low on that Vic Fangio could turn into somebody that could be an all-pro? Think about the draft. Just really can't wait for the regular season. As if we needed any more extra added incentive for the regular season to start with your Philadelphia Eagles. It's waiting to see who pans out in this draft and who does not. So questions I have for you in the chat. Hit me up. Questions I have for you. How are you feeling about the Dallas Goedert thing? Has he played his last game as an Eagle? Definitely going to get into that. Would you consider moving Johnny Wilson to tight end? And also about this Phillies squad. I thought of the phrase that I've talked about a lot before after the game last night. Everyone always says after a bad loss, there's a bad loss, but like some rookie hit 2 home runs or something like that. There's no such thing as moral victories, but there are moral losses. Everyone said, there's no moral victory. I'm just pointing out something that was good that happened in the game. I'm not saying it's a silver lining, but just, hey, good for whoever that played well when they hadn't, No moral victories. Okay, what are you saying? But there are moral losses. And last night, If it wasn't for the fact that Bryson Stott was such a heads-up player, I would label last night as a moral loss. I'm not labeling it as a moral loss. But it came damn close to what I like to call a moral loss. All right, tell me how you felt about last night's Phillies game as well. Hey, you could have been there last night watching the Phillies go through all the ebbs and flows. You could have been there if you used the Game Time app to get yourself some tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. So take advantage. Also, don't forget about the Game Time Picks feature, which filters out all the fluff so you get down right to it. The best seats at the best prices on the Game Time app. So whether it's a concert, comedy show, big event, whatever it might be, Game Time app has you covered. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's phlsportsnation.com. How about Sky Motorcars? SkyMotorcars.com. Check out all Brett has to offer at SkyMotorcars.com. Let's get into the chat check here. William Stark, hello. Good morning. Nice to see you. Sean Gillespie, hello. April, hello. Danny, hello. Sean Kilrain, hello. Sean Kilrain. Bryson Stott chase rate 2024, 28.3%. Chase rate 2025, 17.2%. How about that? Dropping 11%. Jeremy Schreiber, what's up, buddy? What's up, buddy? Good morning, Farzy and friends. Topper with another brain fart with his game managing, blowing through his bench. Two utility players with Wilson and Stott unable to pinch run for Bohm in the ninth inning. He was toast. We talked about this last night. Did you look? I meant to look at that. I went to look at that. I don't think they had anybody available worth pinch running. Could Jesus Luzardo run? Trying to think who else you could use for a pinch runner. Phillies used to do that with Cliff Lee, remember? Cliff Lee was a pinch runner sometimes. I would love to go back and look at those numbers because I'm a nerd. But pretty sure Cliff Lee was a pinch runner from time to time. But yeah, burn through it. Oh, that's terrible. Sean Kilrain, Bryce Harper's batting average versus fastballs, 216 this year, 319 last year, 317, 307, 336. I think the 3 home runs he hit in the last homestand were all off sliders down and in. He tattooed them. Absolutely tattooed them. Jeremy, hello again. Everyday lineup, Stott, Harper, Schreiber, Bohm. Stop taking Stott out of the lineup. Second best defender on the team. Absolutely, Stott is. I agree. Also a spark plug, which is certainly needed. I concur. Although, to my recollection, he hasn't exactly done a bang-up job against lefties. I haven't even checked that in a minute. I'm going to pull that up right now because I am curious what he's done against lefties this year. Ew. Yeah, 190. 190 batting average with a 261 on base percentage against left-handed pitching in 21 at bats. Compare that with what he's done against righties. 320 with a 402 on base percentage. Yeah, it's kind of hard to make that argument. But then again, to your point, and I've made this point in the past, but it's kind of hard to make it now, is like, he's a young player still. Do you just let him go out there and let it ride and say, all right, go get him? Try to go up there with that same approach. But maybe he's just not good at picking it up out of the lefty's hand. Maybe he just can't judge it. Pitch recognition is terrible. 27 years old now. It's kind of set. It's kind of set. Jim Rice, good morning. April, the mascot race would be faster than Bowman Casty. The president mascot race, the sausage mascot race. Is Mr. Freeze available? They still do that in Atlanta? I think they do. Jerry Scott, baseball. Bryson Stott has very high baseball IQ. I concur. Jim Rice 40, hello. Kirkring is good in low-pressure situations, but I think he's proved he can't handle any pressure. It's a 3-run lead last night. You know what I mean? It's a 3-run lead. And you gave the ball to Orion Kirkering. I mean, Matt Strahm, like, I know you're probably going match up there with Strahm in the 7th. Still late inning. I don't know. I feel like the last 2 pitchers I'd won out of this bullpen are Strahm and then Alvarado. Everybody else could go kick rocks. Joe Ross has been better, I think, his last 2 outings. But he's a longer guy. You're not really going to bring him in there. Yeah. It's a bit of a rough one. Sir Sketchable, hello. Missed the game due to a fishing trip. I'm jealous. But I caught the live stream, so hi, everyone. Have a fantastic Wednesday. Thank you, Sir Sketchable. I'm going to have to keep reminding myself that it's Wednesday. I don't know why my clock is all off this week. Maybe because Friday I'm leaving for a little quick getaway over the weekend, but my head's been spinning. Greg Benson, hello. Kirker, a verb, to give up a crucial home run after a series of boneheaded plays. Kirker. Can you use it in a sentence? Kirker. He pulled a Kirker last night, giving up the lead. Oh, okay. K-E-R. K-E-R. Correct. Oh, Sosa killed your parlay last night? What, were you going for a hit with him? Is he on your parlay there, Jeremy? Pam, what's going on? Pam Martin, hello. Can we make a rule about shaking off JT? Wheeler said the same thing in the post-game interview. Yes, he did. I mentioned that earlier. The only time he did it, he gave up the home run. I think it was a home run. And that's why he doesn't do it. Major JT respect. Absolutely. Look again, like JT last night. Actually, JT for the year. Forget about that, okay? JT removed it for the year. 226 batting average. Womp, womp. On base percentage, just 301. Womp, womp. 0 for 4 last night. But if you listen to him, you have a better ERA. Funny how that works. Very funny. Ken Saad, hey, brother. Good morning, Ken. Nice to see you. Elaine, hello. Good morning. Good morning. I pray that Dallas stays, says Elaine. Yeah, so do I. But I hope there's a way it works where he stays here in Philadelphia. Philly Magic 365. Trey and Rojas tried to give it away, and Stott said, not today, boys. Not today. I just recently, when did Game of Thrones go off the air? 6 years ago, 5 years ago now? I just recently burned through and watched the whole thing again. I hate the way that show ended. I hated it. That I had no interest in anything. And it's one of my favorite shows all time. And I hated it. And I was like, I can't rewatch it. I can't try to make sense of it. I hated the way it ended. And then I went back and I watched it. And I'm like watching it now knowing the ending. So I'm watching it with a little different perspective. And I'm like, would that really happen? Should I have seen that coming? And then I was like, nope, should not have seen that coming. Nope, but feel absolutely right about the way that's justified. The reason that came to mind is because there's the famous line in the early seasons of, what do you say to the Lord of Death? Not today. That's where my mind's at right now. I just recently finished watching again. So yeah, that's on my mind. Anyway, Jim Rice, hello. Not necessarily referring to last night, but to be fair, he was on until Rojas turned. Oh, Rojas and Turner's plays. Oh, Kirkering. Yeah, well, I mean, that's my point about like how he struggled enough about. You're absolutely right, Jim. You're absolutely right. But that's also my point about how Orion Kirkering has struggled to get 3 outs. And they made him get 5 last night. Not exactly a recipe for a success. You know what I mean? Not exactly a recipe for success. So there you go. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, skymotorcars.com. Your Philadelphia Phillies back at it tonight against the Washington Nationals, 6:45, game 2 of this series. Game 3 of this series tomorrow night will be a 6:05 start time. So just adjust your clocks appropriately. So you don't want to miss that. And then they're going to start a series with the Arizona Diamondbacks over the weekend. So there you go. Yeah, it looks like Christopher Sanchez is making that start today. Maybe with the day off. That was the version of juggling the lineup. I don't know. Let me confirm that for you, though, because I'm just a little surprised to see that. This is called the live research part of the show. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. Do you like the verb kirk? Discuss. That's way too many buttons. Yeah, there you go. Christopher Sanchez tomorrow. Bing, bang, boom. Just like that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe on the Farzy Show YouTube channel. Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel, where yours truly has you covered for each and every postcast. Connor Thomas has you covered over there as well when it comes to your Locked On Phillies daily content. And also make sure you like and subscribe to Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Me, Jason Martinez, Harry Mays, Louis DiBiase have you covered for your 2 days a week. We do an hour Eagles podcast breaking all things down birds. Speaking of the birds, coming up right here on Jacob Media, you can see Xander Krause and John McMullen break it all down on Birds 365 coming up on Jacob Media. Make sure you like and subscribe to all that. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Be back with you guys tonight on Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. See you guys then. Look forward to it. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.